Hello everyone, I'm Chitra Iyer, CEO of MFA Capital. I recently had the privilege of interviewing a gentleman whose name is synonymous with trust, precision and unwavering passion in the world of Indian diagnostics, Dr. Avinash Phadke. Most of us are familiar with the legacy. We know the brand, but in this special conversation, filmed during our Doctors' Day celebration, I wanted to go beyond just the name. I wanted to uncover the human story. We often celebrate entrepreneurs who build companies, but Dr. Phadke has built something far more enduring, a legacy anchored in ethics, empathy, and excellence. So here we are, presenting his journey on the Personal Finance Podcast for Doctors.
Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guest for the day, Dr. Avinash Phadke, the man who turned science into a legacy, a pathologist, a pioneer, a visionary who transformed the landscape of diagnostics in India. With top medical degrees and an unwavering compass of ethics, innovation and compassion, Dr. Phadke didn't just build a career, he built trust, one test at a time. His journey began in 1980 in a modest lab alongside his father. Back then, the dream was simple yet radical. That diagnostics must be doctor-led, patient-centric and rooted in integrity. That dream grew. Today, that single lab has become Agilus Diagnostics, formerly SRL Dr. Avinash Phadke Labs, a network of over 400 labs across the country, serving millions. It is in fact the first private lab in India to receive the prestigious NABL accreditation from the Government of India. He didn't just witness change in healthcare, he led it. He has participated in more than 900 medical conferences as a speaker or chairman. He has also been the recipient of several awards, from being honored with the IMA Distinguished Doctor Award to a Lifetime Achievement at the Pathologists Association Conference Award. Dr. Phadke's name has come to symbolize quality, trust and care. And through it all, one principle never changed. Put the patient at the heart of everything. This is more than a medical journey. It is a legacy of science with soul, of leadership with humility. Please put your hands together for Dr. Avinash Phadke.
So thank you everyone. Today is an auspicious day of Ashadhi Ekadashi. This is a tradition which was started by Sant Jnaneshwar, who was the writer of Jnaneshwari, which is the first book in Marathi literature. And there used to be a wari of about 300 kilometers starting from Dehu and reaching at Pandharpur. And that tradition goes back to about 900 years. So today is incidentally that day, so I said I must mention about it. Just like this is a journey, that is a journey which is inspiring for all the Maharashtrians, and there are very few examples in India of such a long tradition being there, and there are about 1 million people every year participate in this. So I would like to mention that today is such a day. When you talked about my journey, I was actually doing my MD pathology in KEM hospital. My teacher was Dr. H.G. Kindre, and she was head of the department, and she was a very inspiring figure. And when I told her that I wanted to learn more about cancer pathology, at that time KEM used to send all the cancer work to Tata Memorial Hospital. So she said that you may have to shift to Tata Memorial Hospital from KEM. Though I had done MBBS and I was doing in MD also in KEM Hospital at St. GS Medical College. At that time, in 80, I went to Tata Memorial Hospital in 79 and graduated. Last 2 years I was in Tata Memorial Hospital, and one of my teachers from that time, Dr. Anita Borges, is with us today. I would like to thank her. Dr. Pradhan sir was with me since those days, as he was my senior and very inspiring figure. So I wanted to do something different. So that's why I learned about cancer pathology. But when I started my practice, to my misfortune, I realized that we had Dr. Chitra Iyer, who was a very famous histopathologist, and his practice was just next to me, so nobody used to send me anywhere. Because they said, you are just a guy who had just passed your MD. So I was forced into more of a clinical pathology, and my father was very well known for his work in andrology, that is male infertility. He had published many books. So the practice was restricted to mainly andrology practice, and I was left with no option but to go in for clinical pathology because I was not getting enough samples for any histopathology or oncology work, because such a senior and well-known histopathologist having his wife's clinic and a collection center just next to Udyam. So I said, I must learn more about clinical pathology. So what I did different was, pathologists are considered as back-end boys. They don't realize their own importance. Today, all non-medical people have entered this line. They don't know anything about medicine or pathology, but they feel that it's a very low-hanging fruit with good return on capital and hardly any entry barrier. But when I started to, how do I differentiate myself? Apart from being patient-centric, the doctors must know that I exist, and I am a very poor salesman. And those days we didn't have any representatives or salespeople, so the only way people would know about me is when I address various medical conferences. So I used to participate in all. So whether it is urologist, gynecologist, diabetologist, I chose mainly clinicians as target because I was talking to pathologists, but they are not going to be my referring doctors. And there were very senior doctors who started supporting me. I would like to mention especially Dr. Ramurthy sir, Dr. Avinash Phadke, Dr. S.D. Bapat sir, and Dr. Renu Alicha. Dr. Manju knows her very well. She was one of the first one who trusted, and they started sending few biopsies. But still I was not happy because it was mainly clinical work which was growing very well. And I said we must add new tests to it. And at that time all our tumor markers or hormone tests were done by a method called radioimmunoassay, which involved radioactive material handling, and you needed to undergo a course in BARC and also start your radioimmunoassay setup, which I did. And it was very primitive because compared to today's machines, it was entirely manual process with multiple steps, and the reporting time was huge, about 2 days for a thyroid report, 2 days for a prostate-specific antigen. So that was the journey, but nobody else was doing it, so I started doing it. I did my course in BARC. At the same time, I was doing part-time pathologist job at Prince Silicon Hospital and Shushusha Hospital. So there, my craving for histopathology was automatically addressed because Dr. Pradhan sir was there in Prince Silicon Hospital, and Shushusha at that time, Dr. Rao was there, Dr. Kamath sir was there, Dr. Sushil Nadkarni was there. So they were operating busy surgeons, so I was kept busy. So that also fulfilled my need to do something away from only clinical pathology. But as the years went on, to answer your question, I realized after 20 years of successful practice, we had become a reasonably big size lab in Bombay. I don't want to talk about financials or numbers, but the only bigger lab than us was Dr. Sushil Shah's Metropolis, which was also a family-centric venture, and he used to practice at Gamdevi at that time. Initially, we thought we'll start something together, but in the meanwhile, Mr. Ajay Piramal approached me because Dr. Swati Piramal was 2 years our junior from KEM, so I knew her. And he was the first industrialist who thought that this is something where he had the opportunity or a vision to create a doctor-centric chain, which is so different than the today chain, which are very commoditized. Mr. Piramal had this vision that doctors cannot be commoditized, and essentially it's a medical service and their practices should be run as per compliance of the company, which is legal and financial, but the operational way in which the doctor functions should be kept untouched. And all the doctors who are here would tell you, Dr. Gurmeet was with us, of course. So all of us would tell you that doctor, when you talk about money, it's not the valuation alone which determines the transaction. Now, when people ask me that, how do you calculate a business value of a particular venture? Whether it's a particular PE multiple, whether it's a market cap, whether it's your need to come into that particular line or desperation to sell on part of the person who is running it. To me, the most important thing is the non-financial parameters. So if you ask any doctor that I will take over your company, but I will change the way you work. I will change the way, you cannot give discounts to poor patient, you cannot give discount to your colleague. If you want a particular piece of equipment, no, we have complete standardization. Many people have this vision that this is just an extension of McDonald's or Pizza Hut, that you can have 400 outlets and run the business in the same fashion, forgetting that it's a medical practice headed by an MD pathologist, and there is a skill set involved, there is a patient relationship involved. So since Mr. Piramal had that kind of vision, I could agree to it, and it was in 2000 that Piramal Diagnostic Dr. Phadke Path Lab was born, and at that time he was the chairman, I was managing director of that company. Over the years, one of our people who got associated with Mr. Piramal and this venture, Mr. Girish Mehta, who is our former CEO, is also here. But it was this vision which attracted me, because I knew that with the funds I had, I cannot venture into high-end histopathology, because by then it was going to need a lot of IHC studies. Now it needs molecular workup, genomic workup, and the equipment costs were beyond scope of me. So that was to answer your question, that was the journey, being a proprietor to migrating into a chain kind of a lab. Now, unfortunately, what happened in 2010, Mr. Piramal decided to exit pharma. Now, Piramal Pharma is only a back-ended company who is doing contract manufacturing work, but it was a very well-known pharma company, and they were known for making acquisitions. Whether it was May and Bayer, or they had done multiple acquisitions, Boehringer Manham, Roche, all these were part of Piramal. So when he decided to exit in 2010, he told me that, unfortunately, I am exiting the pharma, and he has an on-compete for a few years in that. And this was extension of pharma, healthcare. And that time, the famous lab was SRL Diagnostics. So we'll merge Piramal and SRL, and you head now the merged entity. That's how it started. So since he was the majority stakeholder, and I could see that he wanted to exit, there was no option. So I ended up heading the merged entity, which was known as SRL Diagnostic. And I was working with Malvinder Shivender, and I was happy because at that time Ranbaxy was a very trusted and well-known brand name in India. So I thought it's not such a bad thing from Piramal. I am going to equally trusted brand name. Unfortunately for me and many others and investors, Ranbaxy journey was, not very smooth. And they were very intelligent people. They were giving a lot of freedom to doctors, but somehow there were integrity issues about the erstwhile Ranbaxy. There were a lot of litigation, and because of that, finally, currently, the ownership changed hand. My stakes continued as a minority capacity because now it had grown so small, so big, that I could no longer hold significant stakes, which earlier I was holding. So it kept on getting diluted, as when company has 8,000 people with 600 doctors and 450 labs, you cannot an individual doctor cannot own a significant chunk of it. But then they had to, there was a court order in which IHH came into the picture, who are our current owners. They are also owning Fortis Hospital. We are now subsidiary of Fortis Hospital. They also own Gleneagles. They own most of the hospitals in Singapore, Malaysia and Turkey. That's how the journey has been.
So doctor, we would love to know, how did you build this trust over a period of time?
So here I must thank my wife, Dr. Avinash Phadke, because along with me she was instrumental in all patient interaction, and even now she goes to lab at 7 o'clock in the morning and personally supervises all patient interactions and blood collection. And we have, at that time we used to have about 700-800 patients coming to only Shivaji Park lab every single day, because there was nothing like home visit concept, you know. Post-COVID that had changed, because people now expect and have got used to home collection as a preferred mode.
In fact, your app, I think we've always discussed with Ajay also, is one of the best.
Yeah.
And
luckily my son, Dr. Ajay Phadke, you know, here we talk about providence, that he went to the same medical college as me, that he went to St. G.S. Medical College. He also did his molecular studies in Tata, in Calcutta TMC, and then he went to Germany for studies in autoimmunity. And I was not very net savvy, and I'm still not very net savvy. And now the lab also involved interfacing of about some 300 equipment and auto validation of reports if they are within the normal range. If something goes wrong, there is the software to decide that it should undergo a recheck. All your controls are validated automatically. If one of you had a chance to visit our labs, you would realize that. Now, I was not very good at these things. So Ajay, apart from being a pathologist, also is very good at all these other things which are needed for today's practice. If he would not have joined, or my wife was not there, it would have been very difficult with this journey to be continued for 65 years now. The lab is 65 years old and I am practicing for 45 years. So it's thanks to both of them as well as my father that we could build this trust element. So I was not the only one, and here I would like to share one thing. We have the lowest attrition of staff, which I am very proud of. About 50% of our staff is with us for more than 35 years. About 30% of our staff, because recently we celebrated this, is working with me for 25 years. And the 10% is, and the attrition rate in Agilus is about 27%, in the industry is about 25%. While Agilus, Dr. Phadke, it has been 3% for last 40 years. So that means right from reception to a courier boy, to a phlebotomist, to a help desk person, the same set of people are interacting with the patient for last so many years. So that's the answer. So I am not the only one who inspired this trust. It was the family and the support staff to whom I am so grateful. And now when you see anything in healthcare, I feel that the days of personal involvement, the medical component of it is getting diluted, and anything which is outside the hospital now. Now you look at it, it's not only pathology, whether it is radiology, whether it is dentistry, whether it is pharmacy, anything which is ophthalmology recently. Now you will see many ophthalmologists joining Agarwal Eye. Then oncology, we have a medical oncologist here. Now because it's outpatient, we have Mumbai oncologist. So everything is chain. So Dr. Bowman Dhawer is with us. So this kind of individual trust element is lacking in this chain lab. So the Piramal model was not to have only chain lab, but have doctor-centric lab. So it was an acquisition-led model in which the doctors were allowed full function. Now all the chains are having mix of this. So current Agilus labs I have 30% doctor practices. I have very senior colleague, Dr. Shubhendu Roy, who is like an elder brother to me. His lab on Park Street in Calcutta attracts about 1,500 people for last 60 years. And Roy Tribedi brand name is known across. But we also have a Agilus corporate lab there, which works in a different fashion, collecting samples from collection centers. And so the models are mixed. So all the chains are operating as doctor-centric lab as some component, which are acquisitions. And they have to be managed very carefully, because if you take away the doctor's freedom, post-integration, the practices go down. Because you have seen many companies, 2 and 2 don't become 4. They can become 2 and 2 can become 3 or even 2. So that was the challenge. So to answer your question, that's the way we build trust, through a team. And I continue to, I used to go to Palghar, Dahanu. I must mention, there was a Brethren Mission Hospital in Dahanu, where Dr. Geeta, who was the gynecologist, she later on took sannyas and went into religious this thing. But they were the people who used to send me a lot of histopath work, because there was no histopathology. So I could attract a lot of work from Palghar, Dahanu, Boisar, Thana and Panvel at that time. So at that time also our histopath samples used to be about 80 a day, which was not bad. Currently then eventually it reached about 200 a day, and now for Agilus it's much more. So the trust element comes by the same set of people interacting, the way you interact, the way you give concession, never overcharge the patient, you are willing to accept your mistakes and apologize. All this build the trust element. Yeah.
Doctor, for us, at MFA, when we have a team, the 50% of the team is now 10 years, 15 years into the company, and automatically, one is about you being born as someone who thinks that this is my company. Then the other one is where you have ownership coming in because you've been with the company for this long. So 35 years is something really amazing that, we truly want to see that our team is also going to be there. So thank you so much for sharing about that. And very important about, Dr. Vandana and Dr. Ajay coming in. I guess that is something which, like you said, that continuity, when there were so many other brands that came into your space. We have met so many doctors who say, report yahan ka mat lana, wahan ka lana. So that itself says, right? It speaks volumes where the doctor themselves are saying that, you have to get the reports from an X space because there is somebody like you at the helm. So I totally get what you're saying, and that obviously goes a long way in terms of the trust that you've built over so many, many years. Moving on, doctor, there have been tough days for every founder, right? And some of these days would have been like really crazy, especially when you were building up, or maybe during COVID. Could you please share some story with us about what it took to get through that?
Yeah, so I would say, amongst other things, let me first talk about COVID. So COVID, at that time we were not doing COVID test in the beginning, in the first 15 days. And my son, Dr. Ajay, said we must start COVID test because so many hospitals are demanding it. And I was reluctant because in the first wave, the safety of staff and him and our own safety was my main concern, because there were a lot of people, hospital admissions were very difficult, but I could see there was a need, and there was some NABL accreditation and ICMR accreditation involved, which we completed, and we could start COVID tests. And I am happy to say that all chain labs faced ban for various periods, for illegal practices or wrong reports or not following the norms and overcharging the patient, doing what they called as a urgent test for 5,000 rupees vis-a-vis 500 rupees determined by the government. So ours was the only lab, and we were draining samples from Bridgecandy to Jaslok Hospital to Conway Jain to Kikabai Hospital to Raheja Fortis, practically all hospitals in the city. And we were conducting about 8,000 tests a day. And it needed new employment of about 200 staff on contract. We had to teach them, and each patient entry had to be done in ICMR portal before the report was released. So you needed a lot of data entry operators. And in those 2 years, the Mahim lab conducted about 25 lakh COVID tests, and the lab in Goregaon conducted about 8 lakh COVID tests. And actually, that's our flagship lab. The Goregaon lab is flagship lab, and it had a premises. Our lab is about 20,000 square feet or 25,000 square feet space, while Goregaon has 50,000 square feet space. But the staff culture and cooperativeness, willingness to do round-the-clock duty, come to work during COVID times with those special passes was much more in our labs, mainly because the family was coming. Dr. Ajay was there round the clock. So they felt that since the family is also coming and risking, this thing, then we must cooperate. So that was one challenging time. Now this I told you about the epidemic situation. But otherwise the challenging times are those where I feel that doctors' way of working is disturbed. And because of commercial consideration, nothing against MBAs and finance guys, because I am on both sides in various situations. So, but they want to determine what is the return on capital, what is the EBITDA. Now somebody will decide that radiology has, say, 25% EBITDA, but very poor return on capital, because the machine needs replacement all the time. And the high-end MRI today costs about 12 crores. The PET CT costs you about 15 crores, and LINAC costs you about another 15, 18 crores. So whatever you have earned, you will have to redeploy in capital. So they decide that whether we should be, so we used to have a significant radiology component. Dr. Jhankaria, Dr. Gurmeet, they were part of our chain. But the priorities being financial, lot of it changed, and they thought, now you see all the large chains, they are only into low-end radiology, that is ultrasound and other things which are needed for health checkup. But they slowly got out of high-end imaging. So that was heartbreaking for me, because I see pathology and radiology are the two tools on which the clinician relies for diagnosis. 60-70% of the diagnosis today is on pathology tests. Now, a histopathologist's importance cannot be overstated. It virtually means whether you need, the margins are involved, whether you need a repeat surgery to a type of lymphoma which Dr. Borges would report, which has now different molecular pathways which can be blocked. And the medical oncologist will decide which medicines to use, not only on the basis of diagnosis, but also on the basis of various positive immunohistochemistry reports or molecular reports. So these are critical things and cannot be looked at as return on capital. Now, if you tell me histopathy is not like a money-making line, blood bank is not like a money-making line, pediatric intensive care is not a money-making line. So what is money making in a hospital setup is operation theatre, ICU, pathology and radiology. The rest is largely service. Now if you want to isolate, can you have a hospital without blood bank because it doesn't make money? You can't. But the MBA looks and reorganizes things, and that is very traumatic for a medical professional. So I would say that was the other challenging time which I faced.
Thank you for sharing, really.
Yeah.
I hope there it's always the doctors who are overriding the MBAs.
No, so long as I am there, it is happening, because luckily our Fortis chairman is Dr. Ashutosh Raghumaushi. He is himself a pediatric heart surgeon who was practicing at Bombay Hospital. So luckily, he being in head, and IHH head used to be Dr. Tan Sealing, who was also a medical doctor. So I could reach out to them as a medical. I still reach out to Dr. Raghuvanshi often. But at a CEO level, unless the CEO recognizes all these aspects, it's very difficult to work within those constraints where somebody will decide that you will have to shift your test from Roche platform or Abbott platform to say XYZ Indian platform because the cost per test is low. Because you don't want to do that, you know the pros and cons of that. So that is another significant challenge which every medical professional is facing. Some are facing within the hospital, some are facing in private practice, because it is all now in India, 80-85% of the private beds are now in corporatized healthcare.
Yeah. So I guess you coming home through the COVID period must have been really challenging for the whole family to, I mean, I don't think we can even understand, but when you mentioned that so many lakhs of tests happening and he being there in the heart of everything would have been really, really difficult a period for all of you. Yeah. I mean, we just miss all that, right? We're just seeing the front, we don't know what's happening behind. Doctor, was there any point where as a family you all felt that, we're building something and it is growing very fast? Let's sit and let's rediscuss. Is this going the way it is? Was there any phase like that? Did you ever feel that during your journey? Like suddenly you were 300 labs, then 400, then going on?
Yeah, there are challenging times. See, here the decision making is very important. Like I have seen a typical mindset of somebody who says that, we see this is a Vashi or New Bombay is a so much population with so many labs, so let me start a lab there. But unless I have some Dr. Tekchandani there, or unless I have Vinit Patel there, or Dr. Zambekar with me, who will manage that lab? So, because if it's an employee doctor, he keeps on changing every 1.5 to 2 years. So when you start a greenfield lab, you won't believe the success rate of greenfield lab is very low compared to a doctor-centric lab where you give support without interfering. In that situation, the odds of success, because you have chosen the correct manpower, the doctor has relationships in the community because he is staying there, he knows all his colleagues, the success rate there is much higher. In COVID times, by the way, I must mention the smarter promoters, unlike me, got out and sold their practices, and we had very large deal happenings at an astronomical value. So what determined the value? That COVID was extrapolated to last for a particular length of time, which it didn't. So the smarter people left at that time. People like me, for whom it was a medical profession, we continued. And I think you can say financially that was, we missed the bus. But I have no regrets. They were smart enough to understand and they exited where it was the right time to exit. So to answer your question, yes, I think whether it is hospital, now we talk about HN Hospital today as a flagship hospital in Mumbai. The initial model was different, but finally they had to shift to doctor-centric model with many new visiting consultants, and that's the way that most of the hospitals today operate at a mix of full-time and visiting consultant. Because in India today, the patient, there are very few, like Tata Memorial patient will go without knowing the name of doctor, or Apollo Hospital. But most of the time, the decision making in critical situation for patient is still doctor-centric. He chooses to go to Dr. Manju Sinha's hospital, or he chooses to go to Bowman Dhabar. Every oncosurgeon, even if he operates in any other hospital, wants second opinion from Dr. Borges. So these things would continue. And I think the hospital also have recognized that, and they actually pamper star clinicians a lot. So we are now going to other extreme where astronomical fixed salaries are getting offered to new oncosurgeon, new medical oncologist, whether you take the new Max Nanavati Hospital, or I don't want to name, but that's the new model and a new norm. But then what happens, the doctor is under tremendous pressure to bring X amount of patient. And this is where the disconnect between my type of old generational thinking and the new model comes in. Nothing against the corporatization. You need it for equipments, you need it for infrastructure. If I was to tell you to start a new hospital, it needs, now Gurmukh Advani is there, he was with Siemens earlier, and he has his own medical consultancy. He will tell you that more than 200 compliances would be needed for an average hospital to start. So a doctor which is promoter is unable to manage all the compliances, and some rules like BMW waste management. Suppose you find some syringes in the dustbin which your competitor can put and click a picture and it gets covered in newspaper. The law is the company's director, that means the Agilus board director, can go to prison for 5 years. These kind of rules are framed, and it's very difficult to comply with them for an individual person. So we need corporatization, but there shouldn't be pressure on medical professionals to bring X amount of patient, do unindicated work, and give commercial goals. There are about 12 listed companies in healthcare space, and they have quarterly targets and yearly targets, and they have to maintain EBITDA at a certain level, show year-on-year growth. So when there are financial goals, it's very difficult for that CEO to pay attention to non-financial goals, which are patient satisfaction, the outcomes of his surgery, the net promoter score in that particular company. Now I'm happy to share that our net promoter score is today at 94-95%. The cancer hospital with Dr. Pradhan sir has started and Reshma is managing. The net promoter score is always, in a charitable hospital, is above 90% all the time. So you can imagine the individual commitment of the team. And you see the Google rating of the net promoter score of some of our competitors or some of our corporate hospital, it's very poor. It's full of patient complaints. You know, you just go and you find out my billing was wrong, they exploited me, they overcharged me, kind of a thing. So it has to be a judicious balance between the two.
Lots to understand and learn. Doctor, under your whole leadership, when you became Agilus, as you're saying, that phase, that first of all, the decision to go ahead, how was that phase, and was it very emotional? Was it painful? Is it very rewarding when you look back at the way you explained the whole process with Ranbaxy, with Piramal, everything? Today, how is it? Like, how did you take this decision to become Agilus?
No, see, Agilus is the same company which was formerly known as SRL, but the SRL brand name belonged to earlier promoters Malvinder and Shiminder, and by then they were facing serious charges. So the new promoters, IHH, didn't want to negotiate with the old promoters for continuation of brand name by paying a fee. So we were forced to change the name. But I wish they had chosen something better than Agilus, because it's very difficult to remember for the patient. It took then somebody's bright idea to bring Anil Kapoor in and promote it with a film star. And you will see now Ajay says that when you walk into our lab, there are so many Anil Kapoor pictures that people wonder whether you are in a medical facility or not. So at least in our Shivaji Park and Mahim labs, we have cut down Anil Kapoor component, because that's the world we are living in. But of course, I must admit that though the idea didn't appear bright, it helped us in knowing that the patients knew that now there is something called as a Agilus lab, and SRL is now renamed as Agilus. But even now when I enter my lab and I see Anil Kapoor 2-3 pictures, it's very difficult to accept that. Honestly, it's very difficult for a medical professional to accept that. But that's the world we are living in, I think.
Right. Okay. And so, yeah, going to one of your favorite topics, that is AI, is wanted to ask you two questions on that. One is, okay, we hear about genomics and digital health, etc., all of this happening, especially in the diagnostic space. What are your concerns with all of this coming in a big way? And can you please shed some light for us?
So AI is inevitable and it is already encroaching. So we had a tie-up with Microsoft in which the pap smear screening was AI based and with a good accuracy rate. We are still not reporting on AI based issues. What we fail to understand is something what we'll like to highlight. AI is very good in terms of auto validation, checking of controls, the sample integrity, whether it is hemolyzed or lipemic. You don't have to do any of these things manually. The reruns can be, AI-based algorithms. The patient reports and the comments can be AI-based, because if you have a low free T4 and a high TSH, the AI-based model will predict and you can indicate a possibility of hypothyroidism or early hypothyroidism. But when you come to, most of our CEOs think that AI can be best applied to, say, histopathology. So they have this concept that they will have a digitalization of imaging, just like they have done in radiology. So radiology is very successful AI-based model that any senior radiologist would be able to view the CD of that MRI or PET CT and comment on it. But pathology is different. So for example, if I have a breast specimen, the tumor can be 0.3 centimeter and can be missed in grossing. So if some junior doctor has taken sections from everywhere but that tumor, the senior pathologist is going to report no tumor in that based on the digital imaging alone. So the component of grossing is where the challenges rise. Now, if I have a specimen of robotic prostatectomy, radical prostatectomy, I'm just giving you example as a layman. Now you have to ink the margin. If the seminal vesicle is involved, patient goes for radiation. The newer criteria, if the prostatic capsule is even slightly involved, he goes for radiation. Now, unless the pathologist, who is a grossing person, has taken correct section, you will say you are dealing with a very localized cancer in prostate and the patient will not undergo radiation. So what is lost is the importance of grossing. So pathology in this respect is not same as imaging. Up to an extent, for second opinion work, if the grossing is done expertly and somebody wants to send images from somewhere to a senior histopathologist in the city, it's absolutely valid for second opinion. For primary diagnosis, it is valid provided you have trustworthy and trained grossing people, because your CA colon has to be grossed properly, your radical neck dissection has to be grossed properly, because if your lymph node involvement is missed, the patient will have recurrence and he won't undergo radiation. So there is a difference between the way it is applied in imaging situation and way it is applied in pathology. In clinical pathology, yes, it can be applied on a widespread. We are already doing it. In histopathology, digital imaging, it can be applied with these qualifiers that your grossing should be perfect, and say second opinion person is receiving some ISC slides, but the ISC is not performed with due controls. Your ERPR studies are done, but ERPR or Herceptin studies are not performed with due control. So the images you are seeing may not be validated with correct control. Then he is going to go wrong in the reports. It has nothing to do. So when people just say that, there will be days where melanoma recognition by AI is now 98% abroad versus histopathology is reporting at 95%. The qualifier being the grossing element has been done absolutely correctly. The ISC element has been done absolutely correctly.
Will this, so you do see that it is already in and it is going to change the way.
Yes.
And, going forward, there will be a lot more of interference and.
Yes.
But then, as you say, the mastering of it, the monitoring of it, still needs
Is
to be
still
done
very
by
good.
an expert. Yeah. Doctor, your next gen is in. A lot of doctors struggle with the next gen not coming in, right? So, how does it feel now that the torch is being carried forward?
Yeah. So when you talk about anybody's legacy, how do you define legacy? Say you in India, if you take business houses, there are Tata Group and Birla Groups who are 150-year-old. There is a Wadia Group which is 250-year-old. First listed company on Bombay Stock Exchange was a Wadia Group company. Murugappa Group in South is 140-year-old. So their businesses have changed, but the company has continued. It's not the same business which was conducted by Kirloskar brothers 120. So they have undergone multiple evaluations. So what is common? The common is not only physical inheritance to carry forward your legacy. It's the culture and the way of working which you inculcate in a team of your people. So here I would like to give you a historical example. Now, when Shivaji expired in 1680, Aurangzeb thought that his battle in Deccan is over because Sambhaji was there, but he was no match for Shivaji. But what happened? Aurangzeb died in 1707, but 10 years till 1689, Sambhaji was there. Then there was Rajaram. Then Rajaram's wife Tarabai, and post that Santaji Dhanaji. So Mughals couldn't succeed at all, and the Mughal empire went downhill right the day Aurangzeb died. And Shivaji, in spite of his physical presence not being there, the values of Swaraj which he had inculcated in his followers, they not only lasted, outlived him for multiple generations. There was a time of 150 years where Marathas continued to rule the entire nation. So this is a true legacy which only he can build, which none of us can build. So what I wanted to tell you is legacy is not somebody's daughter or son working with him. Legacy is the thought process and the environment and the team of people who are inspired or who accept the same thought process which you have built. The nature of business would change, has to change with time. But it is not only the physical inheritance like our politicians have, but it's the value inheritance which forms a legacy.
How beautifully said. Thank you, thank you. That was really amazing. Very, very nice. Superb, doctor, really. Very, very enriching for us. We've met many doctors, but you are someone who knows money in and out. That's what, when I started also, I said that when I heard you, I felt we need to get you here to speak about how you understood, how was it, did you always have this thing about numbers, or you built it over a period of time? And more so is that, for doctors who are so busy, right? Everyone is extremely busy in life and they barely, when my team is sitting in front of them, they're saying, "Nee, we don't have the time to do this." In between surgeries, there are calls. There's barely time to focus, and then they're not interested to. So one is, how did you get so interested, and do you really like this aspect of watching and understanding how things are progressing financially? And in the personal space, how did you go about becoming so sharp and astute as an investor?
No, I won't take the full credit to myself. First of all, I have this inherent need to know. So whether it is history or archaeology or political subjects or economics or Hindi film songs, I need to know everything. So if you say Shailendra song, then I need to know everything about Shailendra. Now Sant Jnaneshwar or Namdev or Tukaram, I need to know everything about them. That is out of curiosity. So that curiosity is immense is the first reason.
Genetically you are...
Yeah. The most important thing is I must give credit to my Piramal days for understanding finance, because we were doing deals and we had, apart from Mr. Piramal, Mr. Girish Mehta, we had Mr. Santanam, and the way they used to evaluate a particular lab venture, and I started learning a lot. But I think the most important learning was when Mr. Piramal appointed me on two of India Venture Healthcare Fund, where Mr. Purwar was our chairman, who was a former SBI chairman, and we had LIC head as our board member. So the way they used to evaluate deal, talk about finances, I started learning a lot. And since I was interested, I would interact a lot and understand from them how they value, what is the market cap of the company, how some people get a PE multiple of 60, 70, and in the same field some get a PE multiple of 20. Why brand matters. So all these things I started learning because of that. And finally, I would also say that, when I started working in Prince Ali Khan, I was working as a pathologist. Thanks to Pradhan sir, he appointed me as a chairman of ethics committee and then subsequently of the executive committee. Now that involved running of the hospital. Eventually, when I stepped down in 2020, I was trustee and vice chairman, and a lot of financial discussions. We had very senior people from Aga Khan Health Foundation. So this Piramal exposure and exposure in Prince Ali Khan about hospital management gave me a lot of insights into hospital working. Now these were not financially rewarding because it was pro bono, but it was rewarding in terms of my learning and my interest getting maintained, because usually a pathologist is just working in isolation in his own lab. This gave me a chance to get exposed to different worlds and learn from them. And I think apart from curiosity, I will give credit to all my Piramal colleagues and Mr. Ajay Piramal, and also the opportunity Pradhan sir gave me in Aga Khan and Prince Ali Khan Hospital. And I am happy that I am still continuing as a part of advisory committee in their new charitable cancer hospital. Reshma, our managing trustee, is here, and I am happy to contribute in my own small way. But now I think to answer your question, so these two were paramount in my understanding the finance situation. And then of course, as a head of Agilus for last 15 years, with a balance sheet more than 2,000 crores annual turnover, so you are forced to learn about these things. So that's how I will give credit to multiple people in this.
Doctor, what would you tell your community who's here? We know that almost majority of the doctors, we have the wives who are involved in the decision making about money, because people like you, there are so many in this room who couldn't make it here also, who are still at their surgeries, and it's quite, it just comes and goes. The money conversation might just kind of enter the family's dinner room conversation very briefly. Is there anything that you want to share with the doctors in the room here, the doctor families, the ladies, the men, everyone?
Yeah.
How and what they should be doing?
I will just share, a doctor's prime aim is about the passion about his practice. So if he's an ophthalmologist, he wants to have...
Save the eye.
Save the eye, so he needs to have the new scan, the new digital equipment. If it's an orthopedic surgeon, he wants to have new best scope. So they tend to reinvest a lot in their own businesses, because that is their passion, that is their livelihood. So they don't segregate personal money and the business income. To them it's all the one. They don't take salaries for themselves. They don't take rent of their own premises. For them, everything is together. So they will eventually learn to manage money as personal money as well as money, this thing. My mistake I will share with you. Being from a very middle class family, money meant security to me. And today it means freedom to do what I want, honestly. Of course, and a health backup, all of us need. travel or cars or luxury is much lower priority, but freedom to live life on your own terms and not changing your lifestyle is what money means today to me. And I think what would be more important that I relied only on security of the money. I mean, the money should not be lost. So whatever I got from Mr. Piramal, first he became 60% owner, I was 40% owner. I invested in that time RBI bond. Everything, every single penny went to RBI bond. Nobody told me that invest part of it in mutual fund, it will grow multiplied. And then I made the mistake of investing large amount in LIC, which I realized that it's the biggest mistake and nobody should cover their, apart from life, no endowment or benefit policies are worth the money. You don't get 4% return also. But this I realize now. At that time we were taught that, you can't lose what you have got first, So this was the thought process. But later, from as late as 2006-07, so that is almost after 25, 30 years of my practice, I started learning that money has two components. One is security, the other is growth, and you have to have the right mix of both, which I am doing now. So now the growth component is almost, it depends on everybody's comfort, but whether it's mutual funds or PMS services, the growth component is almost 65 to 70%, and 30% is the fixed income component. And I have strongly advised Ajay not to enter LIC or not to enter FDs, because you pay 40% tax on that 6% return and your inflation rate of 6%. So actually you are in negative and there is no growth of wealth. So, but these were hard lessons, and I am now telling you in retrospect, but I have made the same mistakes for first 25 years of my career.
It's very important that everybody listens to you, because there are very, very senior doctors here in this room, and I'm sure they appreciate it coming from you. Thank you for being so open and so honest about your whole mistakes, and our presence in people's lives is to avoid those mistakes, and hopefully people will, listen more. I'm not going to take too much more time, but still it's a couple important ones. Doctor, the biggest influencers in your life, whether mentors, role models, people you helped you shape your thinking?
So starting from my father, of course, he was a major influence in my life. Unlike other people, for me, my teachers had a major influence. And I would like to mention Dr. H.G. Kinnare, Dr. Borges, Dr. Chinoy, Dr. Pradhan sir, and Dr. Ilavia. Dr. Ilavia was somebody who was closely associated from Prince Ali Khan times till now. And not only these are teachers in the way I look up to them, but in all my personal difficulties, whether I underwent 2 cancer surgeries, one for salivary gland tumor in 2017 and recently last year for prostate. So at those times, it was always them whom I have approached, even for my personal issues. I remember first surgery was done by Dr. Pradhan. When I had prostate issue, I requested Dr. Borges to meet me in Willingdon, and then we had a long chat about how to go about it, and finally opted for radical prostatectomy. So they have been major influence in my life, my teachers and my parents. And lastly, I would like to mention my friends. They have contributed a lot. And today for everyone, all of us, friends are the support system which is as important as your family. Sometimes more important, because you make friends by choice, family is by blood and inheritance, and you will see 2 brothers fighting. So to say that the friends influence from each one of them I have learnt, and they have given me a lot of emotional security, and many of them I would like to mention, whether it is Ravi Mahajan who is here, Deepak Dandekar, or Lokur family, or Abhay Narvekar. They have been my friends from 45 years. Now, so they have given me the same support and emotional security which family has, and I think they also play a very large role in your life, apart from your own parents and your teachers.
Thank you, and I guess every single person who is here, thank you so much for being here for him. And I mean, that's a small thing that we could just say, but it was lovely listening to all of these names who you shared. Doctor, in terms of family, yes, Dr. Vandana, she is the co-founder and head of customer relations and logistics. She's played the key role in lab's reputation and ensuring high quality operations. Similarly, Dr. Ajay Phadke is a director of strategic business development at Agilus, and he is responsible for driving growth and expanding the company's diagnostic services both in India and internationally. So, and he's also set up Healkin right now.
Yeah. So here I would like to mention something that uh, the pathology space is getting very commoditized. As you know, it's not only Amazon, the Reliance. If you go to Delhi, Medanta Hospital has 100 outlets and collection centers. In Pune, Jahangir and Ruby Hall have open collection centers. So there are multiple players. I would say there are at least 25 PE-backed or corporate players in the pathology diagnostic alone in Mumbai. There could be more in North India. So Ajay had this thought of starting home healthcare business, because what we could see that every hospital is concentrating on average length of stay. They call it average length of stay. And the lesser is your average length of stay, the more profitable the hospital is, because you don't make money on bed charges, which are now capped. Anything above 5,000 rupees bed charge attract GST. So hospital has to be very mindful about the bed charges, because patient bills get inflated when they opt for deluxe and this thing, because that's a government GST as a luxury. So a Bombay hotel room would cost you more than a hospital private room. So they are not earning money on that. So the earning money is either by way of operation theatres. So they tend to discharge patients very early. And now our population is aging and geriatric. Now we realize that a lot of patients used to request us that, do you have a facility for giving any caregiver at home? My mother has this issue, and somebody has a Ryle's tube feed, or somebody has a indwelling catheter, and somebody needs to be given chemotherapy at home, or enema at home, or vaccinations for old people at home. Many parents are staying alone with children abroad, and they want somebody just to check their blood pressure and give pneumonia vaccine 2 doses or whatever. So we saw that a lot of patients' requests came. So Ajay started this venture about 2.5 years back. Now we are breaking even at the moment, and we have not taken any private equity for the same worries which I faced in my earlier times, that then it's very goal oriented and financial, that you take somebody's money, then you have to achieve certain target in a given time frame, and I know people who have become miserable with that. So he has not done that, and I'm happy to say that he has a team of about 25 people. But most important to me is, unlike others, his Google reviews, and there are about 800 reviews, are highest in the industry at about 4.8, 4.9, which is what makes me proud of what he is doing, not the financial breaking.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you an extension to about the family, is that, it would have, for you, it would have been a lot of balancing work and family, right? So what helped you stay grounded with so much happening? How have you stayed grounded throughout? When we listen to you, you're so calm, the way you talk. I don't know, do you raise your voice?
Hardly.
Yes, he does. Oh.
Yeah, with Vandana, yes, but not with anybody else. Not with my children.
I thought.
Or not with my staff, drivers. I don't.
Never.
I don't believe in that.
You're privileged.
So I think that is by nature I am like this. So I always felt that you can see, when people ask me that what is the quality of the leader, they think that being intelligent, being hardworking, being sincere. So I tell them the most important qualities are not this. The most important quality is integrity, loyalty, and interpersonal skills. Because if you lack in any of them, you can't be a CEO of any company or any leader. Because however brilliant you are, you have no poor interpersonal skill, or you have no integrity, or you have other issues. So I have learned that these things, when we take a job interview, measure the first three. And I think it's high time in India we start psychometric evaluation for senior positions. And Mr. Santrup Mishra, who was, thanks to Pradhan sir, was on our board in Prince Ali Khan Hospital, he was always used to say that when you are appointing a CEO or a senior level position, because I used to also interview Aga Khan other positions outside India. So the emotional component, loyalty, integrity, and EQ quotient is not measurable during an interview where you judge how smart or intelligent he is and his CV. And the other thing I would give equal weightage is references, and I cannot overemphasize on that, because references tell you a lot. We had a case where a very prominent CEO was brilliant in his work, but had multiple cases of sexual abuse with female colleagues. And when we just went back to his previous employers, it was revealed that it is a personality trait which doesn't get revealed in your interviews at all. So these are things which I've learned the hard way. And I now realize that there are things which are involved beyond only intelligence and hard work.
Doctor, so one last question before we start with the rapid fire for you. Can you please share what brings you joy these days? Your hobbies? What are you personally?
Yeah, I think the space now is mainly two granddaughters. I think for me and Vandana, they have become the focus of our attention. Now my in-law Sanju Batra is also here. He for us now, Isha and Anushka, these two grandchildren are the focus of our attention. But apart from that, music and reading I would rate as. So when people ask me what other alternative careers you would have chosen if you were not a doctor, the answer would be I would love to be an archaeologist or a film director. But then I have landed up in medical profession, and of course medical profession is something I love. So I don't understand Western music much, but all old Hindi film songs, I'm a very avid listener, and I know fairly a lot about them. So next time when we get a chance in personal space, I can talk about, say, Guru Dutt or Raj Kapoor or Shailendra or Bimal Roy for 15 minutes, or Sahir.
Lovely.
As much as I would talk about any
Definitely
historical
do
figure.
hosting
So
on that.
these passions keep me happy and grounded, and of course my friends and interaction with them.
Doctor, now we're coming to your rapid fire round.
Thank you.
Okay. So these will be like, as quickly I will just run through them. So if you had a middle name that truly described you, what would it be? Or what would you think your team would say your middle name should be?
I would say they would say quiet.
Okay.
Because by nature I am introvert. Though I am appearing in this forum, I am very comfortable addressing medical conferences. I am very uncomfortable in personal space unless I am amongst friends. But since this was like a very small gathering and we have very close group
friend.
of women,
So
I
it's
agree
more
to
of
that.
Avinash
Yeah.
Khamosh Phadke.
So they would say I am quiet. They would say that.
Avinash Khamosh Phadke.
Khamosh Phadke.
Okay. 3 values you live by, personally or professionally.
I think they would be hard work, integrity, and hobbies.
Okay. Early riser or night owl?
I think I'm quite okay. I'm not neither an early riser nor a night. So I sleep by 11 and get up by 6.
So yeah, qualifying in more early rising. If not a doctor, what would you have loved to be?
Ah,
You
well,
already said archaeologist or film director.
Yeah, I think I would have loved to be, because I'm very fond of prehistoric era, historic era. So whether in Netflix there is a series of ancient apocalypse. So so they talk about hunter gatherers making civilizations. Like now you see in Istanbul, 60 kilometers away from Istanbul, there Gobekli Tepe. That's a recently discovered historical site dating back to about 10,000 BC. And you can see physical evidence of it. So how hunter-gatherers could build such a city with podiums and architectural work, and one can review the documentary. This has always fascinated me, So I would have loved to be in that profession.
How many countries visited so far?
Must be about 30, 35. Still on the bucket list is Latin America. I haven't visited.
And which movie would you have directed?
So I would say the movies which I have liked the most was, of course, Gurudat's Paisa, then Bimal Roy's Madhumati Do Bigha Zameen, and Devdas also, Bimal Roy's Devdas, and Mehboob Khan's Mother India, and Raj Kapoor's Sri 420 and Avara.
So any of these you would have loved to be there?
I would have, I don't have the capabilities of anything equal to them, but I love the canvas of Mother India, because I think it's an epic journey of a Indian woman trying to bring up kids in very adverse circumstances and make a movie on a very tragic and depressing topic, but make it so interesting and universally accepted. And not to forget K. Asif, who made Mughal-e-Azam, but he is a one-film wonder. So I don't want to rate him as the highest director, because there is no longevity in his career. It's only one single movie and one other movie, but the other directors have made multiple.
We're definitely coming back
ones.
to this discussion on your passion for movies, for sure.
Yeah.
That is another commitment taken from you. So if, what does a peaceful Sunday morning look like? I mean, barring today.
Yeah, Sunday morning, my favorite hobby is either to go out alone, and I go to a restaurant called Status at Nariman Point, and I have one idli or one dosa, and I carry some newspaper or my iPad. So I sit alone, and it's a very crowded place. So I know it opens at 11:30. So I reach at 11:30 sharp when there is nobody. So all the managers, everybody knows me there. So because the Matunga idli dosa places on Sunday are very packed and you can't visit them.
So
that's
if
what
you
I
all
like
have to
do.
catch him, Sunday morning 11:30 Status to have idli dosa with him. Doctor, you revealed your silence place.
Pardon?
Your only place has been revealed.
Yeah.
Which recent medical innovation has truly excited or inspired you?
I would say in our space, an instrument called BioFire, which is a molecular diagnostic instrument which is this big. It's introduced by a French company called Biomerio, but it's a life-saving instrument. So suppose somebody is on ventilator and the ventilator tracheal secretion is sent to us. It can detect 20 pathogens, and that includes bacteria, viruses, fungus. 20 pathogen in a span of 1 hour, and it's life-saving. The same with the CSF sample, same with the pus samples, and same with... So this has altered the way an ICU functions, way an acute emergency. It's we were the first one in Bombay to start it. Now it's in about 12 hospitals. When I started it, nobody realized the importance, but now every single hospital cannot do without a what is called as a BioFire panel, whether it's pneumonia panel or a pus panel. It's life-saving, and all that within a span of I say it because I have handled CSF samples. Say suppose patient has meningitis. We have lost amongst our friends Shaila Kulkarni is here. Her brother-in-law we have lost to meningitis, and we know that how critical it is to diagnose meningitis on time. That time we didn't have it, so we used to empirically treat as pyogenic, empirically treated herpes or malaria involving falciparum malaria. But now we can confidently say that it is pneumococcal or meningococcal or it is cryptococcal, whatever it is, and the treatment can be started on day one, and it is life-saving for the patient. So that is one advance in pathology, I said, has made a huge difference to lives of people.
But your proudest moment as a father?
I think it would involve my son and daughter. My daughter had health issues and she had very painful bladder condition. But overcoming that, she not only did her law in India, but she did law in University College London in first class, overcoming this. And she is doing a government job as a lawyer in US. Her name is Rashmi, and she is married to a Britisher. And of course, the other happiest moment is my son getting admission into GS Medical College, because in today's competitive world, I know how difficult it is to get admission into the topmost medical college in the city. So I would say these two were my proudest moment. They are both involving my children and not me.
That's lovely. Beautiful. One health tip you swear by?
I think the lifestyle plays a larger role in disease management than medication, is my strong belief. So whether you are dealing with blood pressure or diabetes or anything, and I think the shortcuts of semaglutide or other drugs for weight loss or diabetic management play a role only when lifestyle interventions have been tried, which unfortunately nobody has time and inclination to do so. But we must remember that today 25% of people are either having diabetes or pre-diabetic, and about 40% of individuals are having hypertension. And these are lifestyle illnesses, and which cannot be managed by medication alone. And I think the strongest health tip is first try lifestyle interventions for these diseases before you opt in for multiple drugs with all their side effects.
Perfect. What's tougher, starting a lab or sustaining one over decades?
I think sustaining is much more difficult.
If the Phadke family legacy was a book, what would its title be?
Oh, we tried our best.
That is very, very humble, doctor. So, really. One goal on your personal bucket list that's still waiting to be ticked off?
Yeah, I want to travel not only outside India. Though Vandana was against it, I have now taken a Tata Harrier car with a hope that I can take it to. There are many places in our country which I have not visited. So I recently visited Gwalior, Orchha, Jhansi, which we have heard historically, but I have not visited. So same way, I want to visit many historical places in our own country. Lonar Lake, which is the only lunar lake near Nagpur, I have never visited. I have just gone to Tadoba and come back, seen the tiger. So this is what I would like to do. And I wanted a car which can take me anywhere, and I don't have to worry about the expenses that, the repair costs are too high, or I don't want a luxury car. I want a car which can be left behind without supervision. So
perfect.
That's my
Doctor, last one is, if you had to swap places with anyone for a day, who would you choose?
I would choose a senior cardiac surgeon or a neurosurgeon or an oncosurgeon who is saving so many lives every day, which as a pathologist you help in diagnosis, but you have no opportunity to actually do anything life-saving yourself. But you save lives indirectly by coming to some diagnosis, but they save I have seen a neurosurgeon operating on very difficult brain tumors for 9 hours or 10 hours, and I admire their skill set and tenacity to do so. And the same goes with oncosurgeons or a cardiac surgeon. And I think at least one day, if I can be doing as much life-saving work as them, that will be a dream. But I don't think I will learn their skills.
Lovely. Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much for doing this. You know, it's been a journey through time, science, values, and legacy, right? So, hearing your story is not just about your brilliance as a doctor or an entrepreneur, it's about your strength and your humility and more about your love for people, and it shines through so beautifully. You are so simple, humble, and I think people who have interacted with you obviously have seen the brilliance of your mind coming through, and today we got a glimpse of it. Thanks so much for doing this for us. And you remind us of the long road. We are definitely living in an age of complete shortcuts, that everything has to happen instantaneously, even yesterday, if not today or tomorrow. So, it's how you have walked with purpose and integrity and all that you've shared in terms of those important things in life. I'm sure everyone is going to carry this with them for the longest time. Um, I think we definitely will repeat. There are some things that you spoke which I would love to rediscuss with you, and then we'll do this sometime. And to everyone, thank you so much for attending this.